The real story of the Catholic Church, origins, truths, and hidden controversies. Behind centuries of tradition, there are mysteries, bold decisions, and secrets that hardly anyone knows about. Is the story you've heard really the full truth? Are you ready to find out what's been buried in the shadows of history? The things left out might change how you see your own faith. Watch till the end and see the Catholic Church in a whole new light. When people think about the history of the Catholic Church, a lot of folks picture a simple story. It all started with Peter, Jesus' disciple. But what if the real story is way more complex and full of twists? Historical records show us that right from the early days of Christianity, there was a huge mix of interpretations, challenges, and even contradictions. Have you ever wondered how a faith once hunted and outlawed managed to become the oldest institution in the Western world? The idea here is to look past the usual stories and dive into a journey that uncovers the deep and surprising roots of the Catholic Church. Back in the 1st century, Christian faith wasn't one size fits all. It was led by different people and communities all over the vast Roman Empire, with no central command like we see today. Stories, letters, and texts shaped each group in their own way, each one living the gospel a little differently. Can you imagine how many versions of the faith existed at once before the whole Catholic unity thing? And over time, history and the need to survive forced Christians to get organized and talk things out. The persecution and hardships early Christians went through also played a big role in shaping the character of the church. You needed guts and grit to stick to your faith when the Roman Empire was basically out to get you. It wasn't just about doctrine, it was about staying alive, both physically and spiritually. How would you have handled that kind of pressure? Those tough times made people realize how badly they needed unity and a strong sense of identity, something that could survive across generations. When you understand that the Catholic Church didn't spring up overnight, but came from a messy, drawn-out process, your view of its history really changes. What sounds like a straight line is actually a journey shaped by tons of meetings, choices, mistakes, and victories. Ever stop to think about how many decisions had to be made before the church got to where it is today? To get ready to dive into this mystery and feel the awe of a faith that's lasted thousands of years. Peter, Jesus' disciple, is usually shown as the church's first pope and main pillar. That famous line, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church," has been used for ages to back up that idea. But was Peter really the big boss among the early Christians? The scriptures and historical accounts show that other figures, like James, played big roles at crucial moments too. At the Council of Jerusalem, for instance, it's James, Jesus' brother, taking the lead on some key decisions for the community. Which raises the question, was the role of the Pope, like we know it now, really part of the original plan? That whole tradition showed up way later, after lots of interpretations and changes depending on what was going on at the time. What do you think a spiritual leader's true job is? It kind of makes you rethink your own ideas about authority and faith, right? Throughout history, scholars have gone back and forth about just how much power and influence Peter actually had. Some say that verse is just a metaphor, while others believe in a straight line of popes starting from him. The different takes on this show that even Catholic tradition began with honest debate and real questions. How do you see the role of religious leaders in your own faith journey? Writing the story of the papacy is really about accepting that it didn't just fall into place by itself. It's the result of human experience, expectations, and interpretation. Doubt and debate have been around since day one, and there's no reason to be afraid of asking questions. Are you willing to chase after truth even when it challenges what you were taught? Drop your thoughts in the comments about what you think Peter's real role was. Founding the Catholic Church was anything but quick and simple. Contrary to what some people think, it didn't just show up fully formed thanks to one person. It took decades, sometimes even centuries, of debates, decisions, and constant changes, usually under serious pressure. Ever think the story could be this long and complicated? Early Christians in Rome were basically always in danger, forced to meet in secret just to keep their faith alive. Every council or meeting was an attempt to settle differences and hang on to enough common ground to survive. It wasn't easy to find agreement, with leaders split on all kinds of doctrinal and practical stuff. Still, it's amazing how, even while disagreeing, they kept working toward unity. How far would you be willing to go to strengthen your own faith community through real talk? Each struggle brought new traditions and beliefs into the mix, sometimes sparking tension or outright splits. But it was this diversity that helped make the church so tough and enduring. What started out as small, shaky groups went on to become a global force. Isn't it wild to think something so huge grew out of little groups hiding from persecution? Indeed, this whole reality reminds us to look closer at how rich these collective journeys are. How often do we judge a tradition without knowing its origin story? What lessons can we take from those early Christians' perseverance into our own lives? Tell us in the comments, do you believe more in the power of working together or in individual action to change the world around you? Did you know the term Catholic Church wasn't used by the apostles? The original meaning of Catholic is universal, but it was first used to describe the church by Ignatius of Antioch around 107 AD. Shows you how even religious institutions change their names and identities over time. Have you noticed how words take on power when tied to faith? The use of the term came from the need to set real Christian faith apart from other beliefs that were seen as off-base back then. For early Christians, calling their church Catholic was a way to claim unity and inclusivity, even when everyone believed slightly different things. How do you decide what's really essential or universal about your own faith? Picking that name also showed a constant push to build a big open identity that welcomed everyone. That drive to be universal became one of the church's biggest hallmarks, inspiring a global mission. Do you think faith should belong to everyone, no matter where they're from or what culture they're part of? Today, the word Catholic carries centuries of tradition and debate. But don't forget, it started out as a way to build dialogue and include people. Something that can still inspire us to build bridges instead of walls. What do you think matters more in a church? Tradition or the ability to welcome everyone? At the start of the 4th century, Rome was a mess, full of crises and division everywhere you looked. That's when Constantine showed up, the emperor who would change the fate of Christianity forever. In 313 AD, with the Edict of Milan, he made Christianity legal, finally giving Christians some relief after years of persecution. But why did he do it? Was it really just about faith, or were there some big political reasons behind it? Constantine was a master strategist. By granting religious freedom, he was trying to pull together a crumbling empire and saw real value in the unity of a community that already had some serious numbers. More than getting personally converted, he realized that supporting Christianity would make his own reign stronger. What do you think about the mix between faith and political power? Do you really think it's possible to keep those two parts of life totally separate? That move changed everything for Christianity. Now it could spread even faster and became the go-to faith among the elite and the Roman army. Imperial support brought tons of benefits, but also came with new challenges and temptations, like chasing after prestige and political clout. How much do you think faith can be influenced by people in power? Here's a question. Where does spirituality end and politics begin? How can we make sure we keep things balanced between true faith and all the real-world deals and pressures? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's chat about how these tensions are still a big deal today. The Council of Nicaea, held in 325 AD and run with Constantine's backing, was a turning point for the history of the Catholic Church. Christian leaders from all over the empire came together to sort out some major theological drama that was threatening to split the new church. The hot topic: what's Jesus' true nature? Was he God, just a man, or somehow both? Ever thought about how these calls still shape what you believe? It was in Nicaea that a bunch of the core beliefs of Christianity got hammered out, like the doctrine of the Trinity. What was once a barely holding together movement found some much-needed unity through formulas and creeds that everyone agreed on. But let's be real, there wasn't perfect agreement. Even after the council, a lot of people still disagreed, showing just how messy the process really was. How do you feel about truths that are decided by group vote? There's another side to all this too. The decisions at the council weren't just about faith, they mattered for politics. Constantine wanted a solid church to help hold the empire together, so plenty of the debates involved not just doctrine, but also strategies for keeping society in line. What do you think faith's role is in shaping society? Or should spirituality ever be made official by the state? The Council of Nicaea is where faith, reason, and history all crash together. Ever stop to think about how faith institutions are shaped by real people and real situations? Let us know what you think about the relationship between spirituality, tradition, and human decisions. The process of building the Catholic Church wasn't just marked by outside persecution, but by a ton of intense debates and even fights among the Christians themselves. There were all kinds of ideas going around, some labeled orthodox, others stamped as heretical. You know those mysterious texts like the Gnostic Gospels? Lots of them got suppressed, destroyed, or forgotten because they didn't fit the official line the leaders wanted. These internal disputes make it clear that right from the get-go, there were a ton of different interpretations about Jesus, what he stood for, and what his mission actually meant. Every group thought they had the real truth, but only some ideas survived while others got erased. Ever wondered how much richer our understanding might be if those banned teachings had made it through? That's the price of unity. It wasn't always gentle. The quest for order often crushed free expression, turning anyone who thought differently into an outsider. Makes you wonder, how far should we go to protect the heart of faith versus allowing different ideas? Do you think today's faith communities have really learned to live with differences, or are we just repeating old mistakes? Just remember, every major human institution is born out of struggle, hard choices, and even exclusion. As rough as it can be, this process ended up shaping the faith we have now. So do you think diversity makes the church stronger or threatens its core? Share your take and jump into this historic debate in the comments. For ages, Catholic tradition has claimed Peter as the first pope, kicking off an unbroken line of spiritual leaders. But digging into the history and the Bible, you notice Peter's ultimate authority was never really clear. Even in the New Testament, in some key moments, it was James, Jesus' brother, who took on more leadership among the apostles. This paints a picture way more complicated and flexible than how it's usually taught. The passing of the leadership torch often happened through group consensus, debates, even some obvious tension among church folks. Think about it. Even the heavyweights like Paul had to defend what they were doing in front of the others. Makes you realize that God can use all kinds of people in all kinds of ways, right? Early Christian leadership was all about living together, serving and seeking wisdom as a community, not just wearing official titles and climbing a strict hierarchy. That model should make us all stop and think, what really matters to you in a spiritual leader? Authority, a heart for service, or guts to take on challenges? The questions about those first leaders show that even with conflict and uncertainty, the main thing was always a real search for meaning and direction. And let's be honest, that hasn't changed. All of us, sooner or later, have to dig deep and figure out who we're really following. Have you ever doubted the leadership in your own faith community? Share your experiences in the comments. Rome wasn't picked as the center of Christianity by accident. It had massive symbolic and political weight. It was literally the heart of imperial power. By becoming the base of the papacy, Rome doubled down on its religious authority while also holding on to political legitimacy, acting as a hub for Christians from all over the place. Ever think about how the headquarters changes how an institution grows worldwide? This happened thanks to some pretty smart moves by the church to boost its influence. Being at the core of the empire made it way easier to connect with foreign leaders and kingdoms. Plus, it gave the church direct access to those in power. That's how, over the centuries, the papacy turned into the ultimate symbol of unity and leadership for millions of believers. But centralizing power wasn't always popular. Lots of Christians from other regions pushed back against Rome having so much control. Then again, having a solid base made it easier to organize, defend, and spread the Christian message for the long haul. What do you think? Is centralization a good way to build up spiritual life, or does it hold things back? Rome is still a symbol of Catholic faith and tradition today, but the challenge is the same. How do you balance authority with being open to new ideas? Ever wondered what things would be like if the center had ended up somewhere else? Share your ideas. Your input always makes this journey even richer. Throughout the history of the Catholic Church, there have been huge crises and major power struggles. One striking example was the Western Schism, when up to 3 people were claiming to be Pope at the same time. This episode really shows how mixing faith and human ambition can spark some deep conflicts. Can you imagine how confusing and uncertain it must have been for believers back then, with so much division going on? These crises shine a light on the human side and sometimes the flaws of big religious institutions. Even though they're founded on high ideals, their leaders were far from perfect, often swayed by politics and rivalry. Do you believe that genuine faith can survive poor decisions made by leaders? How do you deal with scandals and disappointment on your spiritual journey? In the middle of all these fights, the church learned how to survive. It made deals, switched things up, and worked to bring back unity, even if that meant dealing with some real pain. Every crisis brought self-reflection and showed the need for serious reform. Honestly, it's during times like these that these institutions show just how human they really are, with strengths and weaknesses, just like the rest of us. And that makes us ask, what keeps faith alive even in the darkest times? For you, what matters more, the purity of tradition or the ability to adapt and move forward? Tell us in the comments how you see the church overcoming the challenges in its history. A lot of people think everything the Catholic Church celebrates as doctrine today came straight from Jesus' teachings. But in truth, a lot of what's practiced and believed was defined over time, shaped by political choices and adapting to different situations. That really gets us thinking about what's truly divine and what's just the result of human history. Have you ever thought how much of your faith was molded by choices made centuries ago? When things got rough, church leaders often needed to make quick decisions to keep everyone united, protect their communities, and face outside or inside threats. Those decisions weren't always inspired solely by the Holy Spirit. Sometimes they were driven by wisdom, necessity, or just plain fear. Which begs the question, should a spiritual leader also be a sharp strategist? On the flip side, these choices led to progress too, protecting doctrine, spreading the faith, and opening dialogue with all kinds of people. But there's always been a risk. Adapting sometimes twists the message or makes it harder to connect with the true spirit of the gospel. As Christians, we need to seek discernment to separate what's essential from what's just circumstantial. What do you think is the non-negotiable core of the gospel? Human choices have shaped church history in a big way, but the drive for real spiritual meaning has always been the heart of the Christian walk. Drop a comment if you've ever noticed a church tradition that feels more like the result of history than truly coming from Jesus himself. How do you handle those discoveries? Now, stepping back, it's clear the Catholic Church is the result of centuries of change, struggle, choices, and above all, hope. A lot of us wonder, is the Church more divine or more human? Maybe the answer is in being humble enough to accept it's got both sides. Its bright spots and its shadowy moments teach us valuable lessons about the ups and downs of our own spiritual journeys. Despite human failures, the Church played a huge role in shaping the culture, education, and spirituality of Western civilization. Millions found comfort, guidance, and meaning in it. With that in mind, here's an invitation. Look at history with reverence, not to judge, but to learn and grow in spiritual maturity. What does this long journey say to your heart today? More than chasing institutional perfection, what matters most is letting Jesus' message live on, even in the middle of human imperfection. Faith isn't just about history. It's your personal choice to love, forgive, and start again. How about taking this moment to deepen that commitment to God and to others? And leave your honest take in the comments on your spiritual walk. What's most important to you, tradition, the institution, or your personal passion for Christ's message? If this video got you thinking in new ways, hit that like button. That's how we know the content matters to you. Drop a comment below, Jesus' message is still alive. I'd really love to read your thoughts and share this special moment together. And don't forget to subscribe to the Bible Memories channel and hit the bell so you can keep following us on this journey of discovery and faith. Your involvement helps keep this message going and spreads the gospel even farther. And if you want to go deeper, check out the video Uncover Real Communion, 3 biblical secrets that will transform your faith. The link's in the description and the card above. Let's keep the flame burning and spread the truth of the gospel together. God bless you.